Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From our campus in Monterey, California, I'm your host Alan Richmond, right here on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome to the show. Well, on this episode, we'll visit Vandenberg Air Force Base, where recently an Atlas V rocket was launched, which carried as part of the payload a CubeSat launching system that was developed right here at the Naval Postgraduate School. We'll visit with some of the students who actually worked on that project. But first, let's take a look at Vandenberg Air Force Base. The 30th Space Wing at Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, is the Air Force Space Command organization responsible for all Department of Defense space and missile launch activities on the West Coast. The vast majority of all U.S. satellites destined for near polar orbit are launched from Vandenberg. The 30th SW supports the West Coast launch activities for the Air Force, Department of Defense, national programs, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, foreign nations, and various commercial entities. The Western Range consists of instrumentation sites along the California coast, providing space and missile tracking equipment. They support the processing and launch of a variety of expendable vehicles, including Atlas V, Delta IV, Delta II, Pegasus, Minuteman, Falcon 9, and Taurus. The 30 SW also supports force development and evaluation of all intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as Missile Defense Agency tests and operations. It hosts over 7,000 range operations per year and has conducted over 750 space launches and over 1,130 ballistic launches to date. Vandenberg Air Force Base provides support to more than 18,000 people, military members and their families, retirees, civilians, and contractors.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, Atlas engine ignition, 1, 0, and liftoff for the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket carrying the NRO L-36 payload for the National Reconnaissance Office.
Team Vandenberg launched a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket from Space Launch Complex 3 on September 13th at 2:39 p.m. It was the 5th Atlas V processed at Vandenberg and the 606th Atlas mission in U.S. history. While we were at Vandenberg Air Force Base, we had the opportunity to speak with the mission manager, Major Travis Wilcox. Travis, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Since the last time we met at NPS, first of all, identify what your role is and has been, and I don't know if it's changed or not, but bring us up to speed on what you're doing in terms of the launch here at Vandenberg.
Sure. I'm the mission manager for the auxiliary payload on NRO Launch 36. We've got the secondary payload riding along with the primary satellite, and I interface with the mission manager for that team is Captain Mike Hoadley. They're in the Office of Space Launch at the NRO. And I'm also now geared up as the primary mission manager for an upcoming launch, NRO L-67.
Now, mission manager, it sounds like a lot of moving parts and probably a lot of collaboration. I think I'm right with that, right?
Yeah, we do have a lot going on, and that's really what it ends up being, is more managing all those moving parts. Sometimes it feels like herding cats, but you know, it's a really enjoyable job. It's actually been the best experience in my 11 years in the Air Force, absolutely, and really have some great team members to work with, and have a few here today that you know, we're happy to introduce to you. Primarily, the person I work with the most is my CETA, Systems Engineering Technical Advisor, Dave Callan from Cytor, and he's been instrumental in all of this, absolutely. Bulldogged it through when it needed to be, but also has got the gentle touch that he needs for certain things to just make sure that we're treating this auxiliary payload properly and getting everything in place to make it happen. And so it's been a pleasure working with him and learning from all of his experience. He's worked really with OSL for quite a while, but focused more on the auxiliary payload rideshare aspect for some time now. So I've been able to glean from his experience, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, we'll have a chance to talk with him. I remember when we met the first time, it was at the Naval Postgraduate School, and that's kind of where we started. You were overseeing part of the payload project there. What were your feelings after that? Was it a good, positive time you were there? Everything seemed to go well.
Yeah, our time at the Naval Postgraduate School was, again, kind of elaborating on what I was saying before, that this has been just an amazing experience. Working with NPS was probably the best part of it all. I mean, it's hard to say that because we've had an amazing team. Everybody from NASA Launch Services program that we worked closely with to make this happen. They were instrumental and absolutely critical in getting the contractual piece in place to work with our auxiliary payload team, integration team. But from there, they introduced us to and got us involved with Cal Poly State University, and they were our primary auxiliary payload integration contractor, but they subcontracted with SRI International, and both of those organizations have a lot of experience with CubeSats, specifically Cal Poly. They developed the CubeSat form factor and then the Poly PicoSat orbital deployer, which made this whole mission possible. Then from there, we integrate the CubeSats into the P-pod and then into the NPS the CubeSat launcher developed by NPS, and working with Dr. Jim Newman and Vitor Kashish and their team has been an incredible experience. They've done everything that they needed to do to make this work, and getting the auxiliary payload integrated and then tested, and they had to go through a lot to do that. There was a lot of testing and retested to perform in order to qualify the piece parts, the hardware, and then do acceptance testing on the fully integrated auxiliary payload. And like I said, it was a great experience. They were absolutely amenable to everything that we asked of them. They were quick. They were very flexible. They were passionate, motivated to make it happen, and it was a great experience.
It's almost like an overnight success that took 20 years to get there. It's kind of like a launch, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of has been. It's been a lot of work, and I think I got lucky just to kind of take the ball at the end here after, like I said, Dave Callan and my predecessors had done a lot of work in kind of getting this started, and there's been some successes and some failures that were pretty disappointing at times, and then I was able to just pick it up just at the right time to make it happen. So now here we are at Vandenberg, ready for the launch tonight.
5, 4, 3, Atlas engine ignition, 1, 0, and liftoff.
And so what are your thoughts as we look towards the launch here at Vandenberg tonight?
It's overall it's exciting. This is something we've been working towards for quite a while now, and there were a lot of doubters. I mean, this is a first of. This is a first of for the NRO as a rideshare mission. First of for EELV, the Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicles, the largest class of launch vehicles, the Atlas V and Delta in this capacity, but this is specifically Atlas V on the aft bulkhead carrier of the upper stage. And so there was a lot to go through. There were a lot of wickets, a lot of testing, a lot of analyses that we had to deal with. So it's been challenging, but being here for launch it feels like we're right at the end zone. This is the fourth quarter, fourth down in the last couple minutes of the game, and we're there. We've got everything in place. There was a few things that came up last minute. We expected to finish up with integration onto the upper stage rocket back in April and May, beginning of May, and then pretty much be done. But there were a few things that, paperwork and licensing that came up recently that took a lot more focus than we expected. And, working with ULA on that to make sure that we provided for the primary mission especially, but for the launch vehicle and mission insurance overall was a great experience. They did a lot to accommodate us and make sure that we did have everything in place, and they had all the contingencies worked as well in case we didn't come through and make things happen to be able to deploy these, launch and deploy these as planned. So it's been a lot of work, but like I said, being here for launch is exciting, relieving, but also a little bit nerve-wracking because it is, like I said, it's a first of, and there's a lot of things that have to go right, and if one thing goes wrong, that's the end of story for whatever that may be, you know, for a CubeSat or heaven forbid, you know, anything with the primary mission. So
we'll stay positively focused on a positive launch.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we expect. We're you know, like I said, ULA and all the team has done everything necessary to make it a successful launch, and we're excited to see that tonight.
Great. Well, Travis, good to see you again, and we'll look forward to a positive outcome.
Absolutely.
Well, special thanks to Major Travis Wilcox as mission manager, who did a terrific job on the project. Well, coming up after the break, we'll visit with some of the NPS students who actually worked on the CubeSat launching system. As we go to break, if you'd like to follow activities at the Naval Postgraduate School on social media, here's how to do it. We'll be back right after the break. You know, you can get the latest news and information on the Naval Postgraduate School as it happens through the university's official Twitter site. Follow NPS and stay connected and stay informed at twitter.com/NPS Monterey. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside NPS. Well, at Vandenberg, we had the opportunity to talk with one of our current students who actually worked on the CubeSat launching system. Say hello to Vidar Kashish.
I started back in 2009 as an intern. I had just graduated from the University of Michigan with a bachelor's in aerospace engineering. So I came to NPS to work temporarily, just to help out with the project back then. And I happened to just stay on, and I've been involved with the project for 3 years. I've given it a lot, and I think I was just fortunate to join it at the point that I did, because there were so many students who worked before me. There's all the professors, there's Dr. Jim Newman, Dr. Panholzer, and the support staff at NPS who really worked on this project, and I got to work on it at a point when we actually had a mission, and there was a clear goal in sight, and I'm just super excited that today we're just about 7 hours away from launch, and we're just counting down the hours and hoping everything goes well. Back then, what we were doing was testing the satellite. We did some vibration tests on the integrated system, and after that we actually essentially just sat in a can for a few months. Since we're an auxiliary payload and not the primary, they had a few requirements of us that we needed to be ready by a certain date. So we were ready back in Feb, and we actually delivered to Vandenberg in April of this year. And we bolted the spacecraft onto the launch vehicle down in Vandenberg, and that was an experience as well. It was great to have the whole team working together. Everyone made sure we got things done on time. It has been really, really exciting, just because I've been working on my master's degree at NPS, and at the same time I've gotten to work on some hardware that's going to fly in space, and that's not an opportunity you get every day. It's just amazing as a student who was fresh out of college to get to work on something that you can actually say that I have a satellite that I worked on along with a whole bunch of other people, but we got it done, and we were the first to actually get a whole bunch of CubeSats up, a record number of 11 CubeSats being launched on NROL 36. Oh, it's just going to be pure exhilaration. It's once we see it clear the tower and we hear from the CubeSats, it's going to be just awesome, because that lays the groundwork for future launches of NPS School, which is the structure that we're developing at NPS, which is basically the backbone of the auxiliary payload, and inside of it you have the 8 peepers and the CubeSats inside of that. And the CubeSats are doing the important missions, and we are the structure that is just carrying them up. So it'll be it'll just be really, really exciting to see it through to that point. NPS is a great institution to be at. One of the really unique things about NPS is that you have a mix of civilian and military students, and we both have a lot to learn from each other. It's just an experience you don't find at other places.
We also had the opportunity to speak with a former student who has now graduated from NPS who worked on the project. His name is Lieutenant Commander Matthew Crook.
Well, I was a student at NPS from 2006 until 2009. I was just a normal military officer in the Space System Operations curriculum, and as part of the curriculum we do a master's thesis, which includes a variety of things, but what I chose to do was to work on this new CubeSat launcher that had been thought of by a couple of the professors at the Naval Postgraduate School. Professor Jim Newman and Professor Rudy Panholzer had realized a couple years earlier that in the United States we have a huge amount of excess capacity that's on our launch vehicles that goes unused. That's capacity that the launch vehicle has above and beyond the normal, what the primary payload needs, and it simply wasn't used. Well, at the very same time, CubeSats, those are miniature satellites, were being produced by universities all around the U.S., and most of them are being launched abroad, with a couple notable exceptions, primarily in Russia. And they seem to think, what a shame it is that we're wasting this excess capacity on U.S. launch vehicles, while at the same time, our American universities are going abroad to get launches. So it just seemed natural that we need to develop a system that could launch CubeSats here in the United States. So that's where the idea for the NPS CubeSat launcher was conceived. And then I came on board in January of 2008. I was probably, I believe, the first student or one of the first students to work on it. And I recognized immediately that this had real potential to fly in space. I thought it was a fantastic idea. So at the time I came on board, Professor Newman had already gotten some funding, seed money, to basically conduct the design, and that's where I came in. Myself and a German exchange student, Felix Rosberg, he did most of the analysis for the original design, and then in July of 2008, I was presenting our design at a small satellite, or as a rideshare conference in Wallops, Virginia. And that's where the NRO gained visibility of the project, and they were interested. They were interested in CubeSats and experimenting with that type of technology. And so they approached us with what we needed to actually build a qualification and flight model. And so from then on, the program really took off. We realized our original design was slightly too large for what they had in mind. It was built for an Esper ring, which is the top of the third stage, immediately underneath the primary payload. Instead, they had in mind a secondary carrier. It was called an ABC carrier at the bottom of the third stage. And that had it was a little bit more constraining, a little smaller. And so we had to do a redesign. And that was covered in my thesis. And then it could carry about 24 CubeSats, up to 24 CubeSats. So my thesis covered how we could possibly manifest those, as well as the actual design, especially the modified design that was necessary for the ABC adapter. And I can't emphasize more than enough that it took a whole team of very talented students working on this, as well as the professors who are advising us. There was myself, Christina Hicks took over after me, along with a couple other students, Tito De Jesus and Tony Harrison. And as well as after we left, Vidur and Wenschel took over. And they were particularly important because our original design had a couple flaws under heavy vibration. And that's where Wenschel and Vidur were able to look at the cause of those problems and modify the design to where it is robust and ready for flight. So for us in the Navy, getting a master's degree in general is very important. It's important for our promotion. I chose space system operations not because it had anything to do with submarines, but just because I knew I'd enjoy it. And in fact, I fell in love with space system operations, so I hope to either after the Navy or at some point go into a second career in aerospace. For me, the primary thing is I just learned that I love aerospace.
Well, stay with us. More to come right after the break here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. Well, obviously, many people involved in a project of this size and scope. We had the opportunity to speak as well to the technical advisor. Tell us a little bit about your role and your company's role in this mission.
Well, first of all, my role has been absolutely fun, but my role has been to be technical and program assistance to the Air Force officer in charge of the program, and we've had a couple as we've evolved, but Major Wilcox has been here about a year and a half, actually a little over a year and a half now, as we've brought the OutSat program to fruition. So basically, hopefully his right-hand man to help him guide through not only the technical, but a lot of the political and management challenges with the program.
And what's been the best part of it for you as we approach launch?
It's a very satisfying program in that we had the kickoff for this program on the 6th of February 2011, and we finished up acceptance testing of a combined satellite that has 11 CubeSats, 8 P-pods, the NPS structure, electronics, on the 6th of February 2012. So it's not very seldom in the space program that you get to work a project that goes from start to finish ready to fly in a year. So that's very rewarding. The other thing is working with the people on this. Passion is the word. All the way down from Jim Newman at NPS. I mean, here's a guy who's an astronaut. He's flown on 4 missions, 6 spacewalks. He could probably find a lot of corporate jobs and go do things like that. He's chosen to teach at the Naval Postgraduate School and actively engage with the students there. So he's passionate about what he's doing. And the students at NPS, Cal Poly, the kids, and I sound old here, I should call them students, but they seem like kids to me, in their early 20s, are building flight hardware satellites to do good things not only for NASA experiments, but we're doing some cool things for the NRO and the intelligence community with these. So I think that has been just the best part, is to see a program come to fruition in a year, and the enthusiasm and passion, and I think Travis mentioned the flexibility of the team to do whatever it took. And we ran into challenges we were not anticipating in this program.
You know, we always look at who's the winner in situations like this, but this really is a global win for technology and for kind of the common good, isn't it?
It really is. If you search the web, you will find all sorts of information on CubeSats. The other countries are launching them, both friendly countries, if you will, and some that we consider adversaries are developing the capability to launch very inexpensive but very capable satellites into orbit. So this is good in a lot of ways to get us, the U.S., not only get hardware in orbit, but we're getting young people ready to come straight out of college and go into the workforce and provide us some great skills to the companies who are building our big, large national assets.
Great. Well, Dave, thanks very much for taking time to speak with us. And before we end, we certainly want to zoom in on your patch there. There's a little story there, isn't there?
Well, there is a story here, and the CubeSat launcher that NPS developed is basically a structure that contains 8 P-pods. And it was meant to fly these P-pods in a variety of locations on the booster. Those locations aren't always ideal. Like the primary, he's on top, he gets all the air conditioning, he gets everything, and rightfully so, for a benign ride to space. The NPS cool, and in this case, flying on the F-bulkhead carrier on Centaur, is on the aft end of the Centaur. Our vibration environment is severe, thermal environment is severe. It's not as clean as the conditions for a primary spacecraft. So the students, as they were developing NPS cool, when they were told where they were going to have to be able to fly, came up with the slogan or a motto for the NPS cool is coach class to orbit. So it's kind of like sitting in the last row of the worst airplane right next to the bathroom on the way to orbit versus first class. But they've taken the challenge, and we have a great capability here with what NPS has done.
Well, thanks to David Callan for his time to appear here on Inside NPS. Well, time now to turn our attention to the NPS Spotlight. Well, this time the NPS Spotlight falls on Distinguished Professor Dorothy Denning from the Naval Postgraduate School, who was just inducted in the National Cybersecurity Hall of Fame. Working in areas of technology, public policy, business, education, and public awareness, the honorees represent innovators and visionaries who defined an industry and established the standards in information assurance. These pioneers paved the way for people everywhere to have the ability to securely utilize digital technologies for work, banking, recreation, and communications. Well, once again, special congratulations to distinguished Professor Dorothy Denning here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside NPS here on the Pentagon Channel. I'm your host, Alan Richmond, and as we leave today, we'd like to offer special thanks to the 30th Space Wing Public Affairs Department, United Launch Alliance, and everyone who hosted us at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. We appreciate all the support from the fine men and women who serve at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Take care, everyone. Goodbye for now.